Alrighty. There's another joint I'm seeing here, and I'll mention before I go into this one, it's actually a unit. There are 2 units sold in this one block of units. I gather there's actually 2 blocks of units, and they've got the driveway through the middle. There's one here selling for 58 grand, and it's got a tenant for 80 bucks a week. The previous week they had one in the same lot selling for 50 grand with a tenant in there for 110 a week. Absolute cookie cutter type places. But in a way I'm thinking that's probably the better route to go down. Versus dealing with old heaps of shit like this. So wait till you see the price tag on this. I've seen this real estate agent, he deals with a lot of the cheaper shit. This is basically a small town out in the middle of nowhere on a fairly large lake. I don't know how big the lake is really. Well, from Google Maps it looks fucking brilliant, but it might just be a bunch of swampy shit, or it could be rather shallow. $27 a month. Cheapest house in the state? Yeah, quite possibly. She got a few issues though. Very poor condition, no power. I mean, I know for a fact there's power in this town. Fencing poor, well, so what? You can replace the fencing without a problem. White ant damage, well, that just about signs it off for everybody. 98% of people won't touch it on the basis of that. And a leaking roof. She's cheap. You know, nobody's cut down anything on the front lawn, front yard for frickin' years. It's probably not had anyone in the damn thing for a good 5 years plus. Let's have a little look here. She's an absolute cracker, this one. And so there you go. That you need a chainsaw. Wow. Not a chainsaw, but you'd need a weed eater and some secateurs, or probably really some lops initially. The highest quality thing on this block is probably that blooming tree. Don't know what this business is here. This may be a little tower for the, what's his name? TV pickup. Let's keep going here. Yeah, it's there again. Yeah. We used to have one like that when I was a kid that basically never ended up working anyway. Yeah. Bought expensive booster systems and they kept failing, and it was a lot of bullshit, and it was very dangerous to climb up there for my father. And looking back, I don't know how the bloody hell he climbed up there, because I would not be climbing up that damn thing. Although I used to climb up the bottom a bit as a kid, but he'd go right to the top and it was suicidal. But the TV signal is likely to be very weak out in these parts. So yeah, it's. I don't think anyone's been in here for a few years. I don't know if that's the curvature of the camera or that is indeed a bucket roof, but you'd think there'd be a split there. When they use crappy cameras, which I think this guy or someone involved with this, they always, I don't know what sort of bloody phone they got, but they got some of the, or camera they got, but they got some of the smallest bloody pictures. And you sort of want low definition pictures, because it hides the fact that these joints are shit. Something's drywall or whatever's come off there, and they've patched up the bottom. I can almost guarantee I know what sort of walling this probably is in this place. Now here's the real winner. Grass coming up in between the wall and the floor. That's when you know you're really winning. Oh look, a little butane stove. And there's even one of the canisters for it sitting on top of the wood stove. You look at the floor here. They've just dropped down lino. They haven't put any edging on or anything. You know, and if you do it right, you probably don't need edging. You could probably glue it from underneath, or take the skirting boards off, put it on, and then put the skirting boards back on. I'm a bit of a goer for having edging on the stuff I've got in my bedroom, because I like it to be sealed properly. especially if a little putty's going to go dumping dead rabbits on the thing. But you look at the floor. Quite obviously, the floor is all over the place like a bloody dog's dinner. This here is probably part of a hearth that's been part of the original stuff that all the wood stoves mounted on, and then it goes back to wooden floorboards, which are probably on stumps that are sinking like the Titanic. Yeah, little sink, couple of cupboards underneath it. Not really much of anything. I've seen one of these ones actually had the wood stove and they had like a toaster oven sitting on top of it. See, the flues burn out, or the wood stove itself all goes to shit in the back, and and so they just give up on them. But they don't take them out; they just leave them there. Throw their other stove on the top. Usually some little toaster oven or some other little propane thing. Yeah, you can see even there the floor jumps back up again, because the other photo was taken standing about here. Back the other way, the floor jumps up there. So white ant damage, who knows what's going on. It can be just an endless nightmare when they got white ant damage. You don't know how the far these bastards are gone until the ceiling falls on you at night, And holy smoke. Okay, well that is a small hot water system. I think we used to have one like that for... I know the one we had was half the size of that. We had two of them actually for washing our hands when we were at the radiator place. That have one in one area that most of us rarely used, and one in another area that a lot of us used. Yeah, they were little hot water systems half that size. But I mean, you're really partying when you've actually got the hot water system right next to the bath. That's an electric hot water system, and I think that's your cables all jerry-rigged like a heap of shit. Oh, that's great. You just open cables and shit hanging around, and just hook straight in right beside your damn bathtub. Holy smoke. It's good to know they got a splashback here made out of the same shit that you put on your kids' school books to protect the front and back cover. And that's what they got as the splashback for the sink. God, blimey. Oh, man, I think this joint, you'd just be ready to shove it into the ground. But, of course, you and I both know what the drywall probably actually is made out of, so that'd add another complication to it, because you need an asbestos removal crew, a few polycarbonate roof sheets. This is Mini Corrie. It's corrugated iron, but it's the miniature version. They used to have that years back, but that's entering the bathroom. So the bathroom, I believe, looks like it's out on the veranda, gathering that big gap of light through there. Oh yeah, that would be. You got one of the old lights, the old dish style thing on the back, up against the wall, and that's the back wall of the house, and there's the back wall of the veranda, and that's probably the toilet on one side, and back on this side he's probably standing at the bathroom door. Looks like, oh yeah, that's the toilet. Okay, well that's about as old as friggin' 1960s, that one. Looks like he's been trying to fix it up, and they probably found white ants and just gave up on it all. Yeah. It's, yeah, we've got a couple of little sheds here. Oh, yes. Yes. They said down the bottom there's a laundry that's in a little... This is supposed to be cement sheet. Just bloody hope it's that and not asbestos. But the framing in it looks quite alright. They've got a side strut thing, but I mean the framing doesn't mean anything when you got blasted white ants there. This is something that we've got a couple of these hanging around, and they're sort of fairly common enough in Australia. I think as a 3-year-old, my parents were at a place that had these, but we've actually got a few of these sitting at the front of my father's shed. They're laundry troughs that are made out of concrete, and you've got like an edging on the top, and I don't know if it's a sheet metal thing or like a piece of pipe edging on the top of them. And yeah, and they've also got it sitting on concrete legs, which I haven't seen the concrete legs before. I've only ever seen the troughs themselves. But there's quite a few of them getting around in Australia. Somebody must have made a lot of them in the 1960s. Holy smoke! Well, that's the back wall. That's the enclosed veranda. That's the toilet side, and that's the bathroom side. But all the paint's obviously coming off. Number of what's his name's there? Water tanks in there. We can see once again the TV antenna. Yeah, it's pretty visible now. In fact, you can't see it on this phone, but I can see a line coming down there. That'd be the actual line going into the house. And chimney from the wood stove. Yeah, she'd be a... I don't know if it'd be renovator's delight. I think it'd be more renovator's nightmare. Because first of all, you got to do a lot of stuff to get rid of the white ants, and then fix everything that they've stuffed with. But you know, you'd be starting fixing the outside, and then you'd be looking at fixing the inside, and the stuffs would be all stuffed. And it's one of these joints that is a bit like my place. You know, by the time I'd done all the massive, substantial renovations I had to do to even make sure that it was structurally stable, I would have taken about 3 times the amount of time that it would have been just to build a new house there of the same size. This is what happens when you got to stuff around with all the damn floor joists and all the rafter ends so they touch the top plate and all the other frickin' bullshit I had to do. Replace 2 walls, like the actual framing in 2 walls to make sure the bloody thing was going to survive, you know. And for a long time there, I never went on the roof of my place because I wanted to make sure that all the rafter framing and all the wall framing below was in place before I got on there. I think I went on there once and then come to realise that parts I was walking on had no framing below them, which is fairly dangerous, obviously, because, you know, you've got a couple of half-assed old roofing nails holding your whole weight on battens that are also buggered, as is still the case with the house I've got. And if I ever replace the roof on my house, which I doubt I ever will, I've got to replace all the battens with it. And I tell you what, there will be a huge amount of old crumbly shit that gets removed if I ever do that. You know, all of the trouble of this place was really caused by lack of guttering in one area, due to part of the veranda being removed in one area. And really speaking, the fact the valley gutter bursts, well, rusted through at some point, and that caused a lot of troubles that, you know, led to why I had to play with the structure of my place. And the bastard still isn't right, you know. At the moment, I've still got troubles with the frickin' front door yet again. You know, the lock will lock without a problem, but the actual little normal door catch is offline again by 1 or 2 millimetres, and it's not clicking. So at night, to make sure the door doesn't blow open, I've got to actually lock the door. This is just what you get when all your stumps are basically bloody rocks, and you get a lot of issues. But anyway, this is why, for investment purposes, it's not worth even touching these shitholes, really speaking. You know, as I said, you would put in 3 times the amount of hours fixing something like that. In this case, probably 4 or 5 times the amount of hours fixing something like that versus actually building a new place. Now, it's not going to be cheap building a new place. It's not going to be terribly cheap renovating this, but what you'll lose mainly, you might save a little bit of money, but you'll lose the next 2 years of weekends trying to fix that joint. It's all right if you're living there. Well, it probably isn't because, you know, I don't really feel like living in a building that's halfway through being rebuilt. Oh yeah, poor fencing, alright, yeah. I don't know if that goes through to the neighbours or that's just a fence they have part way on the same property or what. But a lot of these places, everything's, oh yeah, whole old freaking random shit. Yeah. I think that shed would be in better condition than the bloody house would be, to be honest. Anyway, it gives you an idea of the shitholes that are out there and ones you can put in a lot of effort to fix in Nowhereville that realistically nobody's going to deal with. Even if you look here, look, your veranda is separate from your main roof. If you look at the difference, she gets to that end and she's dropping right down. But you look at the difference here, this end here is lower than the end there. Multitude of problems. What you'd actually do if you're a smart cookie is basically buy this only for the land. You'd shove this bastard to the ground. Like, you'd just frickin' drive a bulldozer through the bloody lot of it. You might not be able to if you had to remove asbestos. You'd have to have that professionally removed. And then just bloody doze a lot of it. Or if you want to save a couple of dollars, get rid of it yourself bit by bit. Take the roof off, collapse all... Well, first of all, you want to remove all the asbestos inside, then take the roof off, and then collapse all the timber down, and then finally knock the chimney over. And that'd be how you'd sort of go at that. After that point, you'd need to probably try and get most of the stumps and shit out of the way, and that tree and a lot of other stuff. And what you do is you get one of these houses removed that was brought into the area. But before you done that, you would actually have the joint treated for termites. And there's injections you can get in the soil, and you'd get a few of those around the property and try and wipe out the termites. And then once you move the house there, as part of the moving fee, they put a new roof on them, and straight away you'd get it redone for more termites, and go again. Or failing that, you'd try and get like one of these removable houses put on the site where it's all steel framed. And then you wouldn't give a shit about the white ants because it'd never really matter. And if you went ahead and built a little carport on the side or something like that, you'd do the whole lot in treated pine, or once again you'd do it all in steel, and it wouldn't matter, you know. And yeah, the less timber you have in these joints can sometimes be the better in these places. It's a particularly, well, it is a problem in the city too, but in the country areas it's a real problem sometimes with these termites. And the warmer the area, the worse they seem to be fairly often. And this is an area that's a lot warmer than my area. And yeah, so anyway, that's that.